Hello there and welcome back to another review. Today I thought we'd have a look at the sequel to Resident Evil from, obviously, in Blu-ray box set. We'll have a look at Resident Evil Apocalypse. I had seen this film before, but I'm hopefully, like I say, trying to get through all the Resident Evils, so we're moving into Apocalypse now. Made in 2004, produced by Paul W.S. Anderson, who wrote and directed the first one. I believe he wrote this one as well. Directed by Alexander Witt and starring again Milla Jovovich. So she is basically the only character who returns in this movie, like from the first one. She's the only one that actually comes back, who had a role in the first film. And it basically picks up exactly where the last movie left off. So remember I was saying, like, she comes out of this place, like, she basically cocks this shotgun, she's in a city, there's no other light, she can't see anybody around, place has been looted, there's cars left open, she just finds this shotgun, she understands it's probably been overrun, like Umbrella, the T-virus has taken over. So that's basically where this film picks off from, picking straight away with sort of how the first film ended, which I thought was a nice touch. Rather than like sort of retreading old ground, it just picks up exactly sort of where the last film ended, so that's quite good. Let me just get it out the way. I believe this film is a lot worse than the first film. Like I mentioned in my Resident Evil review, that film is not great by any stretch of the imagination, but it's okay for a 90-minute, 100-minute sort of film. It's just a shame that it happens to be based on one of the most, brilliant video game franchises of all time. But the first film, in my humble opinion, is just underwhelming. It's not bad. This film is just bad. I believe it's one of the worst of the Resident Evils, but I know that's all subjective. And like I say, I will try and hopefully get through all of them just to give you my two penneth into, what I think about each one. I think it is regarded to be one of the worst of the Resident Evils, but we'll say I think it is one of the worst. So let's get into it today and let's have a look at what we think of Resident Evil Apocalypse. So basically the film opens like many sequels do, with just a summary of the first film, just like making sure you know what's going on as the audience, making sure you haven't forgotten what happened in the first film. And we actually get to see Raccoon City properly this time. We actually do get to see a lot of exterior. We actually do get to see more of the city, because in the first film it's sort of all set in the hive. We don't actually get to see much because the first film is very confined. I think they took the idea of like the first game just being set in one place, and they just set it in sort of this facility. Whereas this film, as I say, it is just basically the city. It takes elements from Resident Evil 3, Nemesis, and Resident Evil 2. More so Resident Evil 3, I would say. The only trouble is with Raccoon City, it looks just like any generic American town, city, whatever you want to call it. There's nothing that stands out about this Raccoon City at all. It's got like no personality whatsoever. Sort of at the start of the film, like before you see sort of the zombies taking over and everything, it's just your standard American town. It's your standard American place. There's no personality to this Raccoon City at all. There's nothing unique about it. Then these scientists from like the end of the first film, they go to investigate the hive. They end up letting the T-virus out because they think, right, let's open these doors, loads of zombies come out, so they let the T-virus out. Meanwhile, Umbrella is basically picking its best people to save them. He's sort of picking up their staff to sort of, help with the situation. Then they go to sort of Charles Ashford's house, and he tells them that they must go and get his daughter. They pick her up. She gets escorted out from school. And then they're taking her, like these government people working for Umbrella. And then this like cement truck just crashes into them. Doesn't stop or anything like that, just keeps going. You think, what was up with that driver? Was he just in a mass panic? I mean, because I'm not sure at this point it was even announced that the T-virus is spreading or there was anything happening. It's just like a car gets overturned, and then basically that's just a plot device, a plot convenience, because he has to find his daughter later on. So, like I say, Umbrella have picked him up. He says, look, I'm not coming unless you get my daughter. They're like, don't worry, that's been arranged. They go, the government people from Umbrella, they go and get her. Then this, like I say, this random cement truck just flips her car. Doesn't even stop. I mean, the driver must have been in a real hurry. He must have been late with a delivery or something. I don't know. And then finally, we get something from the game. We get a Stars reference. We get actually something from the game. And there's actually a character in this who is from the games. Oh, that's all, finally, we're getting somewhere. So it does have that on its side. We get Stars reference, we get finally Jill Valentine. Jill's in it, great, nice to see Jill on the big screen. Finally, as I say, a character from, and she's wearing a Resident Evil 3 Nemesis outfit, like exactly the same. She's put in a Resident Evil 3 outfit, so you know that's quite cool. But this is where though you think, okay, Jill's there, but just what happens next and what happens throughout the film with the character, it just goes from worse to worse. So basically, she's getting all like loading her gun and everything. She goes to the police station, and for some reason, the cops in this are just managing to, they're arresting zombies. Like they're actually booking zombies. They must be reading them their rights and everything, and they're taking these zombies to the police station. So can't they see probably they are a bit infected? They're probably not of the like sound mind right now, but they're bringing them into the police station. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. So what, we're not sure, we'll just arrest the zombies now. And it's not just one or two, they've brought loads of zombies into the police station. They put this woman next to this guy who's been arrested for God knows what. She's a zombie, been infected, and she's like trying to bite this guy and everything. The cops are just standing there just ignoring it. It's like, and then Jill comes in and just out of nowhere starts popping them in the head in the police station. Like, we haven't even been introduced to Jill properly. She hasn't said, she just comes in, just gets her gun out, just starts shooting the zombies in the middle of the police station. And at this point, that really does give you sort of what this film is going to be like, and it gets much worse, as I say. So already I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? So she brings me, and Jill starts just shooting him in the head, middle of the cop shop. I mean, and then she goes, "You've got to shoot him in the head." How does Jill know that? Have I missed something, or is this? I may have missed a little plot thing, but she wasn't in the first film. I understand there's probably stuff, but she's like, "Shoot him in the head," or "You should know this," or something. I'm like, Jill, how? We as an audience, like, we've only just been introduced to you. You know, where's the context there? Just like she just goes, "You shoot him in the head." What's amazing though, what really gets me is, even though like for the first half hour, we've sort of focused on Jill more than Milla Jovovich's character Alice, we don't learn diddly squat about her. We learn nothing about Jill. She is just there for the sake of being Jill Valentine, and that's what really bugs me, because it's like you've got this one of the most famous characters from Resident Evil, and you don't know what to do with her. You do not know what to do with this character at all. She is just there for the sake of being Jill Valentine. I'm sorry if this review comes across like a rant. In many ways it is, but just bear with me. We just don't get to know her. We just do not get to know this Jill Valentine in this cinema, like this universe. We just do not get to know her a lot at all. She's just Jill Valentine, and that is it. It's just somebody that looks vaguely like her from Resident Evil 3. Then we meet this like SWAT team. This again, we meet this like SWAT team. They're coming into the city. They see this woman running like from zombies on a roof. He's like, right. This guy's like, right, get me down there. I've got to help her. They're like, no, we can't. And he's like, no, I've got to get down there. And he does this like Matrix-esque sort of jump out of the helicopter with the wires, shooting 2 handguns as he's going down. Does all this in a really spectacular fashion, like I say, a Matrix-esque type sequence. So he's gone through all this effort. They're shooting the zombies. They save her. He's like, right, we can help you. And she's like, no, I've been bitten. And just jumps off the roof. So that whole sequence, that whole like shooting the 2 handguns, making it really cool, for nothing. No, I've been infected. And she just kills herself. What did that serve? What was the point of that, apart from, like I say, just 9-10-year-olds going, oh, look how cool that is. It just served no, like, there was no reason for it happening at all. No reason at all. Whole scene was a waste of time. And it gets worse. Gets much worse. Then we cut to Alice. We find out she was let out of the lab at the end of the first film. City is in lockdown. Like I say, Alice grabs weapons and new outfits from a store. She goes to this like I say, this weaponry, this ammunition store, whatever you want to call it. I mean, this place is kitted out. They've got everything in there. They've got bombs, grenades, shotguns, bulletproof vests. I mean, why hasn't this been looted? Why haven't people taken this? It's like, if you're trying to flee the city, or if you're trying to get out during like a mass zombie apocalypse, wouldn't you, if you were anywhere near or knew where there was sort of an ammunition shop or knew where there were guns, maybe want to go and grab a few if you're trying to get out of the city and there's zombies running around? But this place is totally kitted out. Nobody's bothered to take any guns. You know, it's just she's got a choice and she finds an outfit that fits her exactly. And then Jill meets up with these others. They hide in a church where some liquors are hiding out. Now, the liquors, to its credit, this film, the liquors do look a lot better. The liquors look a lot better in this film than what they did in the first one. They look more, I mean, they're CGI, of course, but they look a lot more as you would imagine liquors to look like. And then Alice crashes through on this motorbike. And this is probably, I think, apart from the ending, I think this is probably the worst roll your eyes moment of the entire film. She crashes through this sort of stained glass window on a bike. I mean, how and why would she randomly pick that church? There was no reason for her to crash through that window knowing that some people in there who need help. She had no idea that there was anybody in there. She just comes through on a through the window on this bike because it's got to look cool, right? There was no reason for Alice to go in there, right? No reason at all. So she just goes through, smashes through the window on this bike, and then it's like they do something bad, and then they think, right, how can we top how awful that was? You know, and then they'll do something, and then it's like, right, what else can make this seem worse? I mean, like I say, how and why she would randomly just go in there, I have no idea. And then to top it all off, she blows it up, her only purpose of transport, by killing this liquor. I mean, other people are hijacking cars and everything. She's got this bike. She sends the bike flying off into a liquor, purposely blows the bike up. Right, we got to walk it from now on. I don't understand. Surely if that was... They go out, these guys from the church who she teams up with, Jill, and they just start walking. Like they're on a massive, like I'd say, walking hike or something. They don't think to sort of hijack a car. No, it's like, no, we'll walk it. I mean, and another thing that's really weird in this film is like Alice and Jill hardly talk. It almost looks like they hate each other. They don't even want to be working together. There's no camaraderie between the two. Alice and Jill barely look at each other in the eye. They're hardly sort of on the screen together at the same time, which is really odd as well. I don't know. It's just odd. It's an odd dynamic between Jill and Alice. It really, they don't even look at each other, bear in mind they've got to work together. Really strange. Then we have this scene where Mike Epps' character is driving along. I mean, he's going along. Where he's going, I have no idea. The city's in lockdown. Like, the city's been cornered off. He can't go anywhere anyway. But he's driving around, cruising. I'm thinking, where are you actually going to go? Where are you going to go? The city's in lockdown. Then he gets distracted by these like zombie like sort of hookers. He crashes his car. Only just sort of damages the bumper, just barely. He can easily reverse it. He could easily back out of this where he hit it. He only just knocks the front of the car. Then he decides to get out of the car and just starts walking. Like the car's a complete write-off. The car was fine. You could have still driven that. It was fine. It was a perfectly... Just because you sort of hit the front bumper, just because like your bonnet was a bit smashed up, the car was still perfectly drivable, but you decide to get out the car. I don't understand. I do not understand it. I just do not understand what the point of that was. And then it was still drivable. Then the dead start coming up from the grave. I don't know if that works in Resident Evil lore. Is that what happens? Do the dead start coming up from the graves? I have no idea if that happens in Resident Evil, but it does in this film. I say, does that work? A lot of people like giving kung fu to zombies in this film, like with the first one. They just do it a bit more. I mean, the only thing I can, even though I think it still looks stupid, I think at least it explains they're conserving ammo. I think at least that makes sense. It may look silly, but at least I suppose that's how you can explain it. Then Charles Ashford contacts them and says, I will give you a way out if you find my daughter. And Umbrella activates the Nemesis program. They're going to nuke the city. The Nemesis base is going after the remaining STARS members. I mean, if they're going to nuke the city anyway, why have we got to have the Nemesis chasing down the STARS members? Why is that so important? If the whole city's going to be like a nuclear explosion anyway, why have we got to chase down the STARS members? I mean, does he really have to? It just looks like a very... And the Nemesis himself just looks like a very tall guy wearing a Nemesis mask, which is basically what it is. It's not threatening at all. I mean, it's almost laughable. Then they find his daughter at the school, where for some reason Jill thinks it's a good idea to split up, and she gives this reporter a gun. She doesn't want to split up. She's like, I'm not combat trained. Jill says, look, you'll be fine. Take this gun, check that floor. I'm going to check this floor. She's never fired a gun. She's got no combat experience, and tells her to go off. And guess what? She dies. Why did you have to split up? Surely power in numbers and all that is the best thing during a zombie apocalypse. Why have we got to split up? I understand we're a bit on the time limit here, but you've just basically sent her off to her death is what you've done. Jill, for some reason, is adamant they've got to split up. Makes no sense whatsoever. Then there's another thing as well. Jill's about to toast some dogs, right? She's about to cause like a big explosion. Like she's got gas and flame and her matches sort of burn out. And then out of nowhere, like with the church thing, Alice comes crashing in with a cigarette, just knowing that the room is full of gas and everything, throws the cigarette in and just happens to be carrying like a fireproof blanket. Just so happens Alice knew exactly what Jill was doing and was carrying a fireproof blanket. I mean, how? Why? And then Jill says the worst line of dialogue in the whole film. It's like she's walking with, they find the daughter and she goes, so Angela Ashford, huh? That's a pretty grown-up name for a little girl. I mean, what does that even mean? Like, sorry, sorry, my name doesn't suit me because I'm not a bit older. It's like, whoever wrote that. Then we find out at the end Alice's project have umbrella like Nemesis. Then they totally rip off the intro movie to Code Veronica, like with Claire Redfield at the start of that game. They totally rip off that whole scene. They just basically do it much, much worse than what it is in the game. Then we have this punch up between Alice and Nemesis. I mean, who the hell thought this was a good idea? I mean, it looks ridiculous. Why has everything got to come back to hand-to-hand combat in a zombie film? Why do we have to have kung fu, like us kung fu in the zombies? Especially going hand-to-hand combat with the Nemesis. Please. Please, please, please. That ending is stupid. So they go to escape, basically. They take up this helicopter. They go to escape. The helicopter crashes. Alice wakes up in yet another lab, yet again, nude again. Escapes, and Jill and her buddies just happen to be there pulling up at the right time when Alice walks out. And that's the end of the film. So... yeah, I mean, like I said, there's probably things about this film that do make sense, that I might miss certain things, but just watching it from my eyes, and if you enjoy this movie, great, but there's just too many things about this film that like just do not make sense. And unfortunately, it's, if you thought the first film was bad, Resident Evil Apocalypse is a lot worse. So my advice is, if you watch it if you want to, but you know, I wouldn't. It's not great. It's really not great. But anyway, as I say, if you enjoy the film, good for you. But for me personally, there's just a lot wrong with this film. But anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.